Afternoon, everyone. I'm Sudarshan Subedi, Officer for English Programs and Schools at British Council, Nepal, and I will be moderating today's Teachers Continuing Professional Development webinar series, which focuses on important topic of strengthening communication and collaboration to become effective teachers. I'd like to welcome all our partners, facilitators, and participants watching us live from Facebook. Today, we have two prominent facilitators with us. I'd like to start this with Kasia Hollis, who is a teacher trainer and a Cambridge assessor. She holds an MA in English Philology and is a CELTA Delta qualified teacher. She has been teaching in the English as a foreign language sector for last 20 years and developing and teacher training for 13 years. She has worked in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Her main interests lay in motivation and mindfulness in teaching and learning. Next, we have D.N. Joshi, who owns his MPhil degree in English education from Kathmandu University. His MPhil research entitled English Language Teachers Differentiated Instructional Practice Narrative Inquiries is instrumental to the teachers addressing learning diversities. He has been working as a visiting faculty at Kathmandu University, School of Education and Kathmandu Schools of Management, and he has been in teaching field for the last 20 years. If you have any queries and if you have any questions to ask to our facilitators today, then please use the chat section of the Zoom or the comment section of the Facebook Live, and then our facilitators will answer your queries. With this, I'd like to hand over this space to Kasia and D.N. Joshi. Enjoy.
Hello, 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 everyone. A very, very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. And thank you for this webinar dedicated to strengthening communication and collaboration to become effective teachers. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. The recording of the webinar will be emailed to you. You've got British Council website here and NELTA website address as well. There'll be the certificate, and you will also be asked to complete an evaluation form. And your feedback is valued and greatly, greatly appreciated. And without it, we can't grow. So we would love to hear from you. We would love to see what you thought about this webinar. If you're not a speaker, please keep yourself muted so that any background noises are eliminated, so we are not disturbing anybody. Keep your video off, and this way you can present your bandwidth. If there are any questions or if you are asked to comment on something, please do use the chat box and send your responses. And then if there's something really important you'd like to share, then there is a raise hand button that you can just click to let us know there's something important. Okay, with no further ado, let's begin. So by the end of this webinar, you will be able to understand the importance of communication, cooperation, collaboration, and creativity in your professional life as a teacher. Okay, you'll become familiar with some practical tips to strengthen your communication and creativity, and be familiar with different global, regional, and national teacher educational networks. And myself and the Yoshi-san will walk you through this together. So starting off, effective teamwork begins and ends with communication. So we're not going anywhere if we don't communicate. And first, I'm very, very interested in you. So if you could share your answers in the chat box, that would be wonderful. How do you normally communicate? Okay, do you consider yourself a direct communicator, an indirect communicator? Do you like face-to-face communication? Maybe you prefer to communicate via email or messages. Do you ever find it difficult to put your point across? please share with us. It would be wonderful if you took the time now to tell us about you. And if you could use the chat box function, that would be wonderful, because then we get to see what you think. Hopefully you are typing your answers now. And we'll be able to see these answers very shortly. How do you normally communicate? Okay, so it's via messages, thank you, face-to-face, and a direct communicator. Wonderful, thank you very much. Anybody else? Face-to-face, excellent. Do you ever find it difficult to put your point across? Does it differ how you communicate in a face-to-face environment and online environment? Please feel free to share. Use the chat box to tell us about you. And if anyone has just joined or is joining, okay, sometimes there is a language using L2, sometimes it's difficult to put points. Okay, wonderful. If anyone has just joined, no difficulty communicating. Wonderful, excellent. Anybody else? Do you believe that you are a direct communicator or indirect communicator? In different cultures, different parts of the globe, we have different communication cultures. For example, in the UK, it's more indirect. In, for example, Russia, it's very, very direct communication. How is it for you? How is it in Nepal?
Kasia, we have received some of the comment in Facebook Live. May I proceed them?
Absolutely. Yes, please. I can't see the Facebook Live comment. Yeah. So yes.
Puspa Khanal writes direct. Human Singh Basnet also writes the same thing.
Okay.
Writes face-to-face communication.
Yes. Face-to-face communication. Wonderful. Thank you very, very much for this. It's been very, very helpful. I also agree that I personally prefer face-to-face communication. It's much easier for me to put my points across. And I don't know if you noticed any difference, but I feel that post-COVID, when we moved to online collaboration, we moved to online communication, I find it more difficult to communicate with my colleagues, because during training, we spent so much time on Zoom, we spent so much time in front of the computers that yet another meeting, no one is really that keen on that. But it's wonderful to see that you consider yourselves good communicators. Maybe there are sometimes problems, but usually no. Excellent. Okay. Now we have to remember that communication. Okay, wonderful. Online is familiar. Fantastic. We have to remember that communication is a two-way street. Right? So we have the receiver and the sender of the message, and we have to work together for it. The receiver needs to hear us and understand us. And this is a very, very important part of that two-way street, simply because we need to be engaged. Okay, you all said that you prefer face-to-face communication, and here active listening is very, very important. we really need to engage with the speaker. If it's a face-to-face communication, then leaning forward is important. The speaker needs to see that we are actually listening. We also need to be aware of our body language. Okay, sometimes we don't even realize that maybe we hunch our back, we cross our arms, and we're kind of blocking ourselves. Maintaining that eye contact is very, very important. And we really need to be aware of the non-verbal signals. So all that total body awareness is very, very important. Now, a lot of the time when we speak to someone, okay, we often hear or see, if it's online communication or written communication, we really hear and see what we want to see. And a lot of the time miscommunication takes place, okay? Simply because we have our filters in place and we kind of pick up only what we want to hear. And therefore it's very important to be an active and engaged listener. Sometimes it's a very good idea to actually repeat or paraphrase what somebody is saying to us or what somebody has written to us, just to make sure that we're on the same page, just to make sure that we understood correctly. So we can double check and say, I think you are saying this, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is what you meant. Is this what you're trying to tell me? And okay, it's very important not to assume. So this checking and clarification and making sure that we're on the same footing as the listener, the same ground. So try it out. If you don't do it, try it out. Be that active listening. Be that active listener, engaged in active listening, and check. Sometimes, like I said, there are a lot of things going on in our heads and we think that we heard something, but we might have misheard it or misunderstood it. And that's when miscommunication happens. A couple of simple tips is using I statements. This is a very, very, very powerful technique. When we say, I think, I see it this way, I believe, you are expressing your point of view. Because when we use the you structures, you always, you never, the receiver of the message is likely to become defensive, is likely to feel attacked. And the you statements are often called the blaming language. You didn't do something, rather than I'd like it to be done, the I statements. So in our messages, we really need to be informing the listener, but not attacking them. In face-to-face situations also, we really need to think about the tone of our voice, that eye contact, smiling and being kind to the other person. And also, sometimes there are a lot of emotions at place, and we really need to think how we can self-regulate that, so that we can step out of that space if we feel angry, if we feel frustrated, something is not happening the way we want it to happen. Okay, it's very important to then maybe take a couple of breaths, calm the nervous system down, and then communicate what it is that we want to communicate. So that self-awareness and self-regulation is very, very important. So a couple of really important things here. It's the clarity of the message that's important. Checking understanding, not the other person's understanding, but our understanding. Did I get it right? Did I understand it? Taking turns, so giving the other person space, being the active listener, choosing the right method to communicate. So knowing the receiver, and kind of tapping into their way of communicating, knowing how we can reach them. Self-awareness, so what's happening with my body when I'm communicating, and the appropriate body language. So we are really communicating and not attacking. And this is important in both verbal and written communication. Now, this is time for you now. Think about the last time you felt there was miscommunication, or maybe you felt that your message was misinterpreted. What happened? Okay. How you felt. And then think about yourself also as a listener. Do you really give full attention while listening, or are you already preparing a response while listening to someone speak? A lot of the time we want to immediately give the answer, give advice, but we really need to just listen to the person. Think about also what the communication culture in your organization is. Are there regular meetings between teachers to share ideas, to comment on common classroom practices, to comment about what's going on? How do you collaborate with others? So if you think about those 4 points mentioned here, and once again, if you could type your ideas in chat, that would be wonderful. So think about the miscommunication, the misinterpretation. Think about yourself as a listener. Think about the communication culture in your organization. How do you collaborate with others? I'm hoping you're typing your messages right now. Please do share with us so we know a little bit about you. Okay, we've got the first response. So the miscommunication took place over the phone? Oh, wonderful. There are monthly staff meetings. Okay. And does everybody contribute in those meetings? Okay. Any other more responses? Regular online meetings, okay, because it's convenient, okay. And do you think that it's the same kind of communication that's taking place in an online meeting? And there's a miscommunication, it's a failure, okay. And what kind of a listener are you? Do you engage when you listen to another person, or do you tend to be preparing your responses when they are speaking? Anybody else? Wonderful, thank you very much. Oh, you okay? Wonderful. Usually reply instantly. Listen to the other person first. Wonderful. That's giving that person space. Excellent. And how do you feel when the messages are misinterpreted? Do you reformulate your message? Do you repeat your message? Pay full attention to the speaker. Excellent. Very good. We've got an active listener, another here. Listen and respond. Okay, very good. And what happens when there's miscommunication? What do you do? Okay, clarification with reason and evidence. Wonderful. Sometimes we don't listen carefully. Okay, giving clarification and grading the language. Wonderful, thank you. Oh, okay, apologizing, right. That's a very important element of communication as well. Thank you for this. Any other responses? I'm going to invite here my co-presenter and to ask him, Dianyoshi said, what kind of a listener are you then?
Thank you, Kasia.
What kind of a listener are you?
Okay, I could say I'm an active listener, because communication is not possible being passive. So decoding and encoding process, being passive is not possible. So active listener.
Fantastic.
Getting the ideas, receiving those ideas, then articulating accordingly is necessary.
Excellent. Okay. And you are going to tell us later on about the communication culture in your organization. And it seems that everybody here is an active listener, which is fantastic. And what about the last time there was miscommunication and you felt your message was misinterpreted? What was your strategy? What did you do?
Now, actually, when there is miscommunication, that is not a communication. This is what I say. Communication means where there is no gap. Yes, so this is the kind of the principle of sharing and caring, strengthening self and others. This is what you do. So yeah, so communication, we cannot say in a sense that if there is miscommunication, that is not communication. This is what I could say.
Excellent, absolutely. And everyone, it'll be very exciting to learn a little bit about Mr. Dianyoshi's research that he's done for the purposes of this webinar. And somebody is saying, there are no frequent meetings and communication is not good. I'm sorry to hear that, because it's so important, and we'll find out about teamwork and communication. Excellent. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for your contributions here. I'm going to pass over. I'm going to pass over now. If there are any questions, please write them down and write them in chat, and we'll be answering them later on. Over to you, sir. I'm going to give you now remote control. So you should have control over the slides now.
Okay. So yeah, I have it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kasia, once again. And it was a kind of icebreaker for me that you started with questioning to me myself. Thank you so much. And dear friends, now hopefully next 20-25 minutes we'll have active engagement around. And what we will do is we'll have a kind of interaction that is in chat box is open to you, and feel free to question, re-question, attack, counter attack in case of queries. So we'll start with this case, and you are given 30 to 35 seconds for reading this case, and then 1 minute to answer it, what you feel. For example, the Mr. X started his career as a teacher with the hope of helping students to grow both personally and socially. However, he was unable to keep himself professionally geared up. He aimed to increase everyone's learning and encourage teachers' reciprocity Unfortunately, his enthusiasm and zeal gradually declined. Now, please look this case of a teacher, ex-teacher, whoever is that, and analyze the causes, effect, and remedies in reference to the communication and collaboration. What do you think? What are the causes of his declining zeal, declining encouragement, enthusiasm? What do you think? And what should be done to overcome it? Who could say it? Please write in chat box. What is your understanding on this in this case? Over to you, friends, please. Come on. Come on. A teacher may not be able to maintain a kind of dynamism in his professionalism if there is a lack of communication. So what do you think? How will you analyze this case? Can you write in chat box? Yes, please. Go ahead. Yes, friends, who will share? Okay, that's great. All right. Demotivated towards his or her profession, might be. He might not have made effective communication. That's great, Yuvrajji and Ram Mahatoji. Thank you. Other friends, what do you think? What are the reasons? What are other reasons? That's good. That's good. Go ahead, please. So might be your sharings indicate that professionalism without communication is not possible. Effective and productive communication, teachers' reciprocity is necessary. This is what your comments are depicting. That's great, Bharatji. There might not be the good collaboration among colleagues. Okay, perhaps that's great. That's great. Okay, very good. Come on, friends. You just go on sharing. Maybe there's a lack of communication. There's a lack of collaboration among the friends. Now the question is, okay, what Jeboni shows? Sometimes teachers lose their motivation. Exactly, Yuvrajji might not have understood the need and level of students. That's great. It's not a case of students, rather it's a case of teachers' reciprocity. Okay, he should consult his colleagues, all right? He might not have maintained a good relation with the students. That's great, might be. It means lack of communication and collaboration among teachers results diminishing environment, or let me say environment among the students for their learning as well. This is what you can say. Okay, one should communicate with peers. Great. Yes, Binod sir, that's great. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, friends. So these points represent many teachers across the world regarding what if there is no communication. People may quit the job, and the zeal and excitement they have in the beginning days of their teaching career, they may lose, that may slowly vanishes, and their professional development may not be possible. This is what it is. Thank you very much, Sanjay ji. Thank you. Maybe he could have communicated with colleagues, students well, and he seems to have lacked good communication skills. Might be. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, friends. Now, the case is, after this case, what I felt is there is a significance of communication and collaboration. There is always a significance of communication and collaboration, and it is of paramount importance, we can say. Now, one question based on that only, can we expect students to be future-ready learners with communication and collaboration unless we demonstrate ourselves? Here we mean teachers. Do you think enhancing students' learning is possible without enhancing communication and collaboration among the teachers? What are your opinion? Either yes or not. Just write down in chat box, yes or not. What do you think? How can you teach others without teaching self? You might have heard Bikashananda, he says, if you want to change the world, start changing from your shell. This is what he says. So yes, great, great, Ramji, that's great. Yes. What do you think, other friends? What do you think? Can we expect students, future ready learners with communication and collaboration unless we demonstrate ourselves? That's great. So majority of you are saying yes. Durga ji is saying yes. Richa ji also yes. Binod ji, yes. That's great. That's great. Come on, yes. Ravindra ji, wow. Ram ji, great. Come on, friends. Everyone is ready. If so, of course, Ravindra sir, of course. That's great. Thank you, friends. Sheena, this is the power of communication, I could say. This is the power of communication that makes our profession productive, successful, and this communication is always joined to work. It's a practical, cooperative, productive. Success is possible if there is communication among teachers. So reciprocity is always in its peak before we ladder down or ladder up. We have to think of it always. Thank you, friends. Thank you so much. You people are so great. Now let's go to the next slide. Now the next slide is, professional development cycle. It's my own created cycle. So, communication, collaboration, then in the center, there is community of practice. I have written COP, community of practice. Communication, collaboration, they are interlinked. Undoubtedly, no doubt, there's interlink. Communication means we share the learned knowledge and we learn from others unlearned knowledge. That knowledge, what I called epistemology. So the action of sharing learned, unlearned knowledge, that is what we call communication, we call. And then collaboration, when you talk about, we envision certain goal before we communicate within a group or with pair or peer or in a classroom or in certain organization. We have certain goal, we have certain number of people, and that is team, and we follow process as well. So collaboration is always the act of envisioning certain goal, then framing the team, and then follow the certain process. Random collaboration is quite popular among our communities, as you have observed, but please, it should be process oriented. If you want to strengthen your abilities, this is what I could say. So overall, the communication and collaboration, productive communication and collaboration is mandatory for ecological growth. Academic ecology, I could say. The academic ecological growth is possible. In our language, we say sometimes, dunga kubar mato, mato kubar dunga. It is similar to that, like that. So ecological growth is only possible if we have a pure intention of academic communication, collaboration, and this collaboration is possible through certain agencies. For example, British Council is a typical example of this agency. NELTA is another example of this agency. Maybe there are so many. And it's a kind of community of practice, friends. So whether you communicate with me or with Kashya or Richa or Radha ma'am, anyone else here, or Bikasha, whoever, it's a community of practice. We can communicate to each other and then strengthen our ideas. So learning, unlearning, and relearning based on certain curriculum or policy guidelines is key to effective communication and key to professional development. Learning, unlearning, and relearning aligned with curricular model and then policy guidelines as well. So curricular guidelines and policy guidelines are mandatory for teachers to have effective communication with other friends and to boost up further. Thank you so much. Okay, so now let me go with another slide after this. Now, requirement for effective communication. We sometimes talk about these points. For effective communication, I think these things are necessary. Okay, one question is there. Maybe I could answer it right now. Later we could answer in answer question session. Now, creating professional learning communities is key to successful pedagogical orientation. This is what I have seen. And for this also, what we need is, we cannot be random or haphazard. Rather, we need to have specific goals and outcomes, my dear friends. We need to have specific goals and outcomes. Specific goals and outcomes. Maybe there's a difference between goal and outcome also. For example, goal means what you want to do. That is before. For example, I will have developed great knowledge about effective communication. If you say that, that's your goal. But when you talk about outcome, outcome is a bit different. Outcome can be taken like this: what is achieved by the action you took, that is outcome. So you need to have specification of certain goals and outcomes. First of all, in your school as well, in your academic community, whether in school or wherever, you can do it. So specification of goals and outcome necessary. And then specification of modality. Modality, we can say like this: whether you want to start with the inception period of particular topic that you're trying to engage with your friends or share with your friends, or you want to go in the level of planning, or you want to talk in the level of outcome, or which level. So specification of modality is also necessary. So typical area, typical goal, typical topic, particular topic, we could say, these are necessary. And then we cannot communicate every time, everywhere. Nobody gives us free of cost even a foot. So manage the time. This is what most of the people lack here. So allocation of time and space, when and where, that is also necessary. And my question to you will be, how far you communicate with your friends, colleagues, teacher colleagues at your school? Do you communicate with them every day? So please keep these questions in your mind and write the answer in chat box, so that further we can just try to assimilate those answers to others as well. Thank you. And now the next slide is there. The next slide is all about which one do you prefer? Please check it. Before I answer, you will be answering me. There is one term, collaboration. Another term, co-production. Next one is network. So how do you interlink these three terminologies? How can you interlink them? Can you write down which one do you prefer? Whether you prefer collaboration with networks, certain networks, or what do you think? Which one do you feel? Collaboration, co-production, which one? Which term do you think is better for teachers? For example, okay, network among teachers. Yes, very good. Okay, Mandalji, network among teachers. That's great. Network among teachers. Okay. Okay, everyone talks about network. First network. That's great. That's great. Okay, surely network, Durgaji. That's great. Okay, other friends, what do you think? Please, you will have nightmare. Better you share some ideas. Contribution is necessary. Go ahead, friends. What do you think? What do you think? Okay, collaboration and network, Binodji. That's great. That's great. Other friends? Okay. Yes. Network and collaboration, Puskarji. Network contains both. Okay, network contains both. Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, Puskalji, that's great. Okay, okay. Collaboration needs. Now, okay, Ramji. Okay, Binodji, co-production. So Binodji is saying co-production. Okay, all right. So my dear friends, I feel sometime for us, let's go, little bit higher from this collaboration process, because if we talk about its originality, its origin, collaboration from the very beginning has been used in organizational level. This is what the theories say, theories assert. So, but what I think is that, knowledge is the co-production. It is the co-production, process of co-production. I and you engage. That's why there is knowledge. We are engaged. That's why knowledge is there. And I cannot create better knowledge. We can create better knowledge. So please, let's think teacher community, teacher collaboration in little bit more higher level. I mean, the level of co-production, which takes place in organizational plus individual level. So I would love to use this term, co-production, more than collaboration everywhere, because organizational engagement, individual level reciprocity enhances the knowledge, and knowledge is always co-constructed. It's always co-constructed. So it's a co-production level. And for these two, as someone earlier wrote in chat box, network is mandatory. Yes, network is mandatory. And network, we have seen evident examples here. British Council has been, having collaboration with NELTA for so long time. NELTA, same. And so many agencies are there. So many agencies are there in Nepal as well, and in international level as well. So let's think from co-production level, not from collaboration only, because collaboration can be business minded, but co-production is always more than that. This is what I feel. Thank you. So if you have some queries, we can think later on. Now I have a little bit of survey, my dear friends, and this survey is all about, I asked the people from East Asia and South Asia, and nearly 8-9 countries participated on it. And I have around 92 responses now, but it was earlier. So I asked them question, how prevalent is culture of collaboration and communication in school? No, I surprisingly got some different answers here. For example, this option, 40% said, yeah, we communicate very much. And 57.5% people said sometimes. And a certain percentage of number of people, they said that not at all. All are teachers. And see now, still there is a need of training sessions, development programs on communication and collaboration from our agencies with whom we have been partnering right now also, because it has clearly revealed it that people say sometimes we communicate and collaborate, not at all also. And there is certain number of people who said that no, we don't communicate at all also. There are people like that. And then I asked, do you and your colleagues communicate and collaborate? And 91%, they said that yes. And then maybe 7.6%, and very few number of people said no. But now again, there's a contradiction of first part and this part, earlier slide and this. It means the contradiction because one side they say sometime, another side yes. It means there is a lack of systematic, proper, maintained, principled communication among the friends around. This is what I found in the schools of East Asia as well as South Asia. Next, name of any or some professional organization or organizations that assist you build teamwork for academic and professional efficacy. I asked these questions to the friends. I got different sort of answers. So here, one option is there. Option one here means rarely they come, it means they did not write the correct answer and wrote this. NELTA, they talked about, NELTA has been working quite well since 1992, right? Then they give the example of BELTA. They have been having benefit from this organization in Bangladesh English Language Teacher Association, Nepal English Language Teacher Association, and this yellow mark everywhere indicate British Council. Then TESOL is also somewhere written in one part, 2 parts. Then IATFL has a strong, circle around. It can be felt here. Now then iStar is also there. Some people also give the example of LSN, Linguistic Society of Nepal, and this option 1 denotes that it's the wrong answer on their part because I left the option. Anyway, so there are many organizations that help us in enhancing our communicative and collaborative strengths always. And they have been working for us. So these are the organizations where you can learn ideas, and even you can build your own knowledge about communication and collaboration, having acquainted to them. Now, one question I asked, because the leadership plays significant role always, and the question was, do your school leaders encourage communication and collaboration? My dear friends, option 1 says, we don't want to share. It means rarely they communicate. Rarely, 73.5%. People, they say that, no, rarely. And then no, very less. Yes, only 22.4. It means that leadership plays a significant role in establishing well-maintained communication and collaboration, and the reciprocity of teachers and learning, unlearning and relearning is only possible when leaders encourage others. I have been running an institution here only. This is a progressive school. So what I do is, I sometimes, there are boards they have kept. Sometimes they go for thematic learning, they go for the co-production of teaching materials. And if some problems arise, then what they do, they sit in table and talk. Even they call me. This can strengthen our efficacy. This is what we can do. But leadership, surprisingly, I found here is 73.5% said rarely. So I think there is a need of campaign from organizations like NELTA, British Council, and others to strengthen this communication and collaboration practices. Now, what participants said about it when I asked how can you develop the culture of communication and collaboration among teachers? They shared about webinar and training. And even they said that being professionally prepared and connected. And someone said that we need to teach instructors how to work well with others. It means from the grassroots level, this culture needs to be developed. We need to work on it because it is not well practiced in our culture, And some other people said, for example, planning team activities, professional learning networks, critical friends groups, discussion and dialogues with the friends, or different workshops and interactions. And sometimes, dedicate time within the work hours, acknowledge teachers' voices and when possible, higher level leaders must participate as a team member rather than reporter. Yeah, this is amazing point. People just report. They have to participate there as a team member, and leaders must lead being exemplary. This is what it says. Amazing thing. So Kasia, anything to share in this part?
So sorry, the moment I click the screen, I change your slides and not wanting to do it. I completely agree. It's very, very important, just like we were saying at the beginning, to be on equal footing, right? So I'm in a leadership position, a managerial position, but I'm here fully engaged, listening and contributing and taking into consideration everything that my colleagues are voicing. So couldn't agree more there.
Okay, thank you. Let's proceed then. We'll go for another slide. Where is it? Okay. Maybe I have a problem. Okay. All right. One answer I got like this: our judgmental nature keeps us away from professional sharing. First, we must realize the fact we are in the institution with a common goal. In order to achieve the common goal, we must stop being judgmental. This is the culture I feel in our context. We always try to judge the evaluators, and leaders always judge them. So judgment cannot compensate anything. Instead of that, being judgmental, what they can do is they can create environment to communicate and collaborate. So this is the duty of leaders now. But majority of people, even the answers I received from friends on survey, I got that leaders become judgmental. They evaluate before connecting them to certain group. This culture should be relinquished to strengthen the communication and collaboration among teachers. Now, some creativity examples we have here, and Kasyaji and we both will be just talking about these points. We can go with these practices for strengthening communication and collaboration among the teachers. For example, creating virtual network, for example, social networking sites. Now, as I was earlier talking, the technology is not in our hand. We are in the hand of technology. So why don't you utilize it? Let's create the social network site, discuss on the issues we encounter, we face, and come to the conclusion, bring some innovative ideas or get the solution from that. We do show, we have been doing. And I remember Sunita from Dhangadi, Gurukul Academy. Typically, she uses such networks quite often. So teachers wall display board, I do use these, teachers walls and display boards. And what I do sometimes, instead of writing myself, I ask my teachers to go and write, think of some specific code for a day and write there based on the experiences you have today with your students in the classroom. They do it automatically. Turn taking is there. Then, dedicated time and space, that is mandatory. So what I do is, there are many progressive schools who just allocate 2 or 3 or 4 periods to their teachers, and rest 4 hours they spent in communicating and collaborating with the people. And one more important thing, what I feel is, mentorship scheme. Mentorship scheme works better. Mentorship culture is better. I think more than webinar and others, mentorship scheme, this mentorship skill works better. Let's get some ideas. I don't know. What do you think, Kasya? Mentorship scheme, don't you think it's quite fruitful?
Sorry, I did that again. Absolutely. Again, with mentorship, what's kind of inherent in the whole process of mentorship is that, again, that equality, that being on the same level. That's what you said before. That's about sharing and caring. I really listen. I really see what you're doing. I give you my input and we collaborate. So it's not the sort of, I am here and you are here. I tell you what to do and you've got to do it, which naturally builds some resistance. But actually, like you said from the beginning, it's all about collaboration. I think what you do in your school is amazing, because maybe there are not so many centers that actually invest in their teachers' time. The more time there is to share and collaborate, the more creative the teachers are, because we are not sole islands spending time on our own. So absolutely.
Okay. What about classroom action-based research? What is your experience on it? This is the creative example of communication and collaboration.
I think this is fantastic, simply because I choose what I want to research. I choose my field of study. It's not imposed on me, but I choose. The more something comes from my own interest, the more motivated I am to carry on with it. And then obviously, it's fantastic to share with others, because we can learn from each other. And that's what you've been saying from the beginning, that is the culture, that should be the culture for us to actually go down, everybody's on the same level, and we learn from each other.
Thank you. So, one more practice I'm having in my school is cross-curricular thematic approach and integrated approach, because single teacher may remain monotonous to the students. They may feel monotonous. So in that case, thematic approach, integrated approach, for example, this week is for science teaching. So what they could do is in all the classes, theme-based teaching may go on, and teacher may collaborate with each other. Thematic integrated lessons, I think this is simply practiced by many teachers around, I have seen. And then one more thing, international dimension in curricular content. As I said, now we are not confined to our locality only. Because of technology, the social sites, social networking sites, we happen to see, even we use the search engine and happen to learn about the international dimensions of curricular content. For example, one teacher from Bangladesh taught at my school online, collaborating with other teachers, and one from Sri Lanka has been teaching now. So what happens? So international dimension in the curriculum content. It is one, typical example I have seen, I have observed, and I've been practicing in my school right now also. And then peer and peer teaching cycle. It's quite good and easy as well. Let's go for this. These are the creative examples of strengthening communication and collaboration. Beside that, as I earlier mentioned, the stunning example, please. Healthy feedback culture is necessary. This is what I say, healthy feedback culture, not unhealthy. Leaders should not be judgmental, and even teachers should not be judgmental, rather critical and creative. And the reciprocity should be in the center of their heart. This is what I say always. And these are the examples. And now over to you, Kasia.
I think just to sum up, we've got a couple of links that most of the participants are already familiar with: IATEFL, TESOL, NELTA, and just in summary, it's all about peer teaching, peer observation, staying in touch with each other, and making sure that when we communicate, we actually are very open to the messages that we are receiving, and we don't assume. So that's all from us. Thank you very, very much for your participation. And I think it's time for questions.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much, Kasia and Dean, Josie, and all our participants. It was lovely to have such a wonderful participants right here. We have noted down a couple of questions, which I will be reading out for you. So we have a question from Madan Kumar Mandal, which I'm going to share at first. And his question is, how are unlearning and relearning based on policy guidelines? So Kasia, Dean, Josie.
Okay, what is the question, please? Can you reiterate?
How are unlearning and relearning based on policy guidelines?
That's great. That's great. Dear friends, what you need to understand is that policy is policy, but in ground level, who work? Teachers work. Keep in mind that teachers are in center. So aligned with the policy, what you need to think of is some creative, some innovative ideas, having interaction with the teachers, abided by certain curricular goals, strengthening the teaching learning practices, to make it while delivering the content or process or product. Don't you think that aligning with the policy, we can make our content, process, and product of teaching and learning quite effective? I think we can do it. So policy one side, but practices another side, in the sense that teachers are in the center, and it's our duty is to keep policies in mind, but navigating more on those areas and making it more productive for our students as well as teachers on professional development. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. Kasia, would you like to add anything, or would you like me to go into the next question?
No, absolutely. Being an effective teacher is being open to unlearning. Sometimes we are stuck in our old ways and we really need to have a different perspective. So absolutely, yes, thank you.
All right, so the next question that we have is, how can we encourage parents, teachers communication, especially in government schools? It's quite difficult. So I think they want to have an answers, and particularly in terms of government schools, where it's quite difficult for parents and teachers communication? How can we encourage parents teachers communication? That's the question here.
Okay, maybe Kasia, should I go? Or I think you
Go
could
for
answer.
it. You probably are more familiar with the government situation in Nepal than I am, so please do.
Okay, thank you. So what I could say is, I had a shame, understanding earlier, but when I joined the leadership role, when I got this role, what I felt that, teachers rarely used to come to meet me. Actually, the time I have given to them is limited now. They can meet me only from 8 to 11. After that, they cannot meet me in the school. Only teachers can meet me. This is what I have done. And when I did so, then what happened? I made compulsory. Every week, parents should contact principal for the progress report of a week. This is what I did. Some sort of impetus is necessary to do so. So why don't I trigger our parents to join us time and again? Because it's also a kind of collaborative work. So it's a matter of strategy, friends, whoever asked the question. So this is the role of or duty of leadership to create strategies to attract the teacher, the parents to communicate with school community as well, others, for example, teachers or leaders. And one more thing, what I have done is I have created groups of teachers. For example, grade 7 is there. So what I have done is grade 7 parents group different I have created. What they do, whatever the loopholes they find with their child, typically then they start talking with each other in parents group. And I'm also there. And they share, my child is not studying. He just got today mobile with him at school. So, but I found him using mobile while sleeping also. What should I do? I think they are chatting with each other. What should I do? How can you control it? They talk like this. So I work as an instigator there. My duty is to just provoke them, bring them in that condition. It's my duty.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Because you're
Thank you
building
so
the
much.
culture for communication, and that's what we need.
Definitely. Thank you. So another question from Madan Kumar Mandal once again is like, does co-production mean only 2 or more than that?
Co-production does not mean only 2, dear friend. So what you need to understand is that co-production can take place in organization level, then in individual level also. Maybe 2 or more than 2 also. So we cannot confine it to the 2 only. Because the multiple minds means multiple ideas. Multiple ideas means multiple options. Multiple options means more space for having, delving into the depth of that and getting more better cracks. Thank you.
All right. So another last question for today's webinar is from Binod Chaudhary. Where is the place of teacher in communication and collaboration while teaching in the multilingual class?
Maybe Kasyaji, over to you.
The teacher's role in teaching multilingual class.
Yeah, the place, the place of teacher in communication and collaboration.
Well, this here, I'm guessing that the question is about communication between teacher and the students, if it's a multilingual class.
Yeah, I guess so too, yeah.
Well, obviously, it's not going to change. The teacher's role or the way that teacher communicates with a multilingual class or monolingual class shouldn't be really changing. With the monolingual classes, we've got the advantages being able to refer to the students L1. With multilingual classes, what's very, very important for effective communication is language that is appropriately graded, so that we know that students from different backgrounds can equally participate. But a role, essentially, the teacher's role is still the same. We're the facilitators that facilitate in the class, facilitate communication between students and encourage the use of English. So I hope we understood the question correctly, and I hope that we answered it correctly.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. I would speak. Whoever asked this question, that's a good question. Even British Council has said that monolingual policy is not good for them. So they are always encouraging for multilingual classes. Remember,
Yeah.
so there is communication and collaboration, and that's not a bane, friend, that's a boon. Get it like this. So what you do is, when there is a multilingual classroom, the children have opportunity to learn different words from different linguistic communities. They do it using English as well. So take it as a boon, not as a bane. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kashya, Dean Joshi, and all our participants. We had a lot of other questions as well. Apologies, we could not consider all those here today, but we will try if we can be able to get back to you with your answers to the questions that you have asked. With this, thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you very much, and namaste, everyone.